And I can assure all of you here who have reposed this confidence in me that I will be worthy of your trust. We will carry the fight to the people in the fall, and we shall win.
It was a grueling, hard-fought campaign in which Kennedy tirelessly brought his vision of a new frontier in government to the people of America.
So now my wife and I prepare for a new administration and for a new baby. Thank you.
The Bucks win the game, 10-9, and the series. A victory that ignites the greatest celebration in the history of the Steel City. Pittsburgh's triumph is just slightly fantastic. During the series, the Yanks scored a record 55 runs to the Pirates' 27. They out-hit the enemy. Newsmen question and congratulate Mazeroski, all part of the hoopla of victory. The impact and upset of sports in 1960, certainly a vintage year. Pittsburgh celebrates the triumph with a night-long round of merrymaking, uninhibited in its ferocity and fun. The Pirates own the city, can have anything they want, but all they want is a breather after the most exciting World Series ever.
From Copenhagen to Milan, all Europe is gyrating to the beat of the latest from the crazy Americans. And they love it, all of them.
The reason the wall was first built in 1961 is simple. Hundreds of thousands of East Germans were taking desperate measures to escape from a communist regime and Soviet control which they wanted no part of.
The mood in West Berlin today is not one of anxiety, fear, or panic. The people are angry. Groups of them gather near the borders of the eastern sector and quietly, almost scornfully, watch the East German soldiers fixing the barbed wire. They watch them cutting the city in half. They watch the satellite tanks and armored cars, and I heard one of them say, "That proves it. They're the ones who are afraid." But there is anguish here, too, in their hearts. Many of them have relatives and friends over there. Of course, West Berliners will still be allowed to go into the eastern sector, the authorities say. The 13,000 of them who go to work in the east can still turn up and clock on tomorrow. But 53,000 East Berliners won't be allowed to come to their jobs on this side of the wire. I have not yet been able to go over and sound the atmosphere in the eastern sector, but I think I can give you a pretty good idea of what it must be like. In the 36 hours before the communists slammed the door, about 5,500 East Germans escaped to the west. It's reasonable to suppose that another 2,500 would have come over today, but they left it too late.
This street, the Bernaustrasse, is said to be honeycombed with tunnels. Fuchs' tunnel ran almost exactly where he's walking, 20 feet down, 300 yards long. Once he'd decided on a tunnel, he had to find the right starting point. Finally, he came across this deserted bakery, only 50 yards from the wall. Fuchs recruited tunnelers who worked in 2 shifts, eating and sleeping on the premises and leaving singly after dark to avoid suspicion. The tunnel took months to complete, one of the problems being the disposal of the sand from the tunnel, a sure giveaway. Soft sand, hard graft. The tunnelers had to lie flat on their backs and worked in a cramped position, usually soaked to the skin. But the tunnel pushed on, under the wall, under no man's land, under hoses, before coming up in a disused outside lavatory, a stroke of genius. That night, the first refugee crawled the length of the tunnel to freedom in West Berlin. The second escaper was a woman. After her came another 55. All night they came, and the next night, until a woman whose former husband was one of the refugees tipped off the police. In the dark and confusion, the police opened fire, killing one of their own men. But all Fuchs' men and the refugees got away to safety.
In Algiers, the worst crisis for France since General de Gaulle returned to power. The North African capital is under martial law. The outbreaks began when paratrooper General Jacques Massu was dismissed from his command by de Gaulle.
President Kennedy reached a decision.
Acting, therefore, in the defense of our own security and of the entire Western Hemisphere, and under the authority entrusted to me by the Constitution, as endorsed by the resolution of the Congress, I have directed that the following initial steps be taken immediately. To halt this offensive buildup, a strict quarantine on all offensive military equipment under shipment to Cuba is being initiated. All ships of any kind bound for Cuba, from whatever nation or port, where they're found to contain cargoes of offensive weapons, be turned back. This quarantine will be extended, if needed, to other types of cargo and carriers. It shall be the policy of this nation to regard any nuclear missile launched from Cuba against any nation in the Western Hemisphere as an attack by the Soviet Union on the United States, requiring a full retaliatory response upon the Soviet Union. I call upon Chairman Khrushchev to halt and eliminate this clandestine, reckless, and provocative threat to world peace. Let no one doubt that this is a difficult and dangerous effort on which we have set out. No one can foresee precisely what course it will take, or what costs or casualties will be incurred. Two thousand years ago, the proudest boast was Civis Romanus sum. Today, in the world of freedom, the proudest boast is, Ich bin ein Berliner.
At 1:25, the motorcade moves into the downtown area. Death is 6 minutes away. In a warehouse, a sniper with a rifle poised waits. The cheers of the crowd almost muffle the 3 shots. The assassin's aim is deadly. The area is aswarm with police, rangers, and Secret Service men. The murderer slips the net, but a few blocks away, a man is captured after he is reported to have killed a policeman. That man is a 24-year-old pro-Castro Texan who once sought Soviet citizenship. He is charged with murder. Meanwhile, the president had been rushed to a nearby hospital where life lingered as a waiting world prayed. A half hour later, he was dead, his life crushed like his wife's abandoned bouquet.
I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Five score years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating for whites only. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners, will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today.
Cloak of night shrouds the London airport. All is quiet, all is serene. But this is the lull before the storm. Thousands of Beatles fans are bedded down for the night to await the arrival of their heroes. When the dawn comes up, like a teenage scream, the arrival of the froggy-voiced foursome is imminent. The cries of the crowd grow in pitch and volume, drowning out the whine of the jet engines. And here they are, fresh from their triumphant appearances in the United States. 12,000 young Britons roar a welcome. Their shrieks rise in an awesome wave. Our staff scientist, in an odd moment, calculated that this young mob is generating enough energy to put 3 Atlas missiles in orbit and power 54,000 transistor radios. Some of the fences hold, others do not. A minor miracle is mounted by the fact that there are no injuries spread among the near hysterical crowd. This truly is a social document for our time. Young ladies fainted, but authorities feel that some were playing possum, so that they might be lifted over the fence and thus be nearer their idols. Some brave volunteers among the British police elect to act with heroism above and beyond the call of duty and escort the Beatles to their car. There hasn't been this much excitement at the London airport since man learned to fly. So there you have the homecoming of the Beatles, the return of the heroes to their native land. They did what the Redcoats couldn't do in the American Revolution. They conquered the colonies.
Gutted shells of buildings, flames raging out of control, and an atmosphere of apprehension still hover over the quieting Watts section of Los Angeles. Here, for successive days and nights, mostly in the nights, the long, hot summer had erupted into violence. Powerless against snipers, looters, and arsonists operating in the dark, police and National Guardsmen had tried mostly to confine the disorder to the 42 square miles of this area. Even after order is restored, the police and 15,000 National Guardsmen, virtually the state's entire force, remain on duty. Now the guards and police must see that food markets are reopened, electricity restored, refuse collected, all the steps that must be taken in a city where a tornado hits, whether it is stirred up by nature or by man.
London is all shook up by a rock and roll fashion show of the latest Carnaby Street gear. The clothes are with it, and the buyers don't want to be left without it. New items include fur coats for fellas and peekaboo blinders for the girls. The race is on, and the mini skirt will now have to move over for the mini kilt. Great Scott! The mini kilt is perfect for having a fling in. All that's missing is a groovy bagpipe player with long hair and leather argyles. The big beat sets the mood for these mad mods. Naval maneuvers? Nope, just a cute tummy tosser with granny glasses. Simply smashing for sartorially splendid strollers. The grand finale tops everything. Vaudeville's breakaway clothes have perhaps inspired British designers. Are you ready for it? Cool. Bye.
Flying low over the sea, in complete radio silence, Israeli Air Force pilots were out to repel the Egyptian attack. The Israel Air Force destroyed airfields as far as Luxor in the south. Pilots carried out their missions in full, destroying aircraft and takeoff strips. 300 Egyptian planes were destroyed on the morning of the first day.
January 20th, Khe Sanh, and the enemy launches a determined major assault to overrun the area. The 26th Marines and the South Vietnamese troops say nothing doing, no matter how tough the going, and they give as good as they get. Just 10 days after the initial assault, and while intensifying the pressure on Khe Sanh, the enemy launches his wide-ranging Tet offensive. Fighting is violent, and if ever a Marine had to rely on his own quickness and toughness, this was it. House to house, street to street, for 3 long weeks. Casualties are heavy in the house-to-house fighting, and the enemy resistance stiff. After the first day, Marines own just 2 blocks of the city. 2 blocks. And the price is dear.
The Concorde, first commercial supersonic transport, has its public debut at Toulouse in southern France. Seven years have been devoted to the design and construction of this plane. Now the engines built in Great Britain and all electrical and electronic equipment will undergo extensive tests at Toulouse. The 001 prototype will spend the next few weeks taxiing about the airport, testing its wheels and landing gear. By spring, it will take to the air. The Concorde, with 135 passengers, will fly from New York to Paris in 3.5 hours.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Go ahead, Mr. President. This is Houston out.
Hello, Neil and Buzz. I'm talking to you by telephone from the Oval Room at the White House. And this certainly has to be the most historic telephone call ever made. Because of what you have done, the heavens have become a part of man's world. And as you talk to us from the Sea of Tranquility, it inspires us to redouble our efforts to bring peace and tranquility to Earth. For one priceless moment in the whole history of man, all the people on this earth are truly one. One in their pride in what you have done, and one in our prayers that you will return safely to Earth.